Greetings, stackers. Welcome back to Stacking Stupid. Today we're going to do a summary, just kind of walk through some of the stuff that we've talked through, and um, this is going to be the second to last video in this set, in this talk track. So in this video I want to talk about a bottom-up perspective. When I say bottom, I mean if you look at society, the bottom would be the individual, okay? And then I think what I would like to do is then do this is my intentions. The second video is going to be a bottom down kind of. So that's going to be the differentiation, and then we're going to, and my attempt is to summarize. Okay, so we started this journey with the idea of do better. Don't fall into the trap of what we did yesterday is the only thing we can do today. Rethink, re-envision, add new tools. Okay, so when we look at that as an individual, it's almost philosophically how you approach things, how you approach the world. Are you innovating things? But I guess I'm really kind of nudging it towards the relationships that you're creating and working through with on a small level, those around you, friends and all that. On a slightly bigger level, your community, your neighborhood, maybe your township, your city, and of course how you just deal with people in general, strangers, So we talked a little bit about game theory, about short-term versus long-term thinking, and the necessity of adding in that ethical and moral component. You have to find it. I'm not religious, but that has been the role that religion has placed going back 5,000 years, probably longer, but in recorded history, is directed, behavior. But regardless of how, you need to have that ethical and moral compass, or else we're all just serial killers running around doing horrible things. So that's what says. I love to bring it down to that golden rule. Treat others as you would want to be treated. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So back to the individual. If you're an individual and you don't want to get robbed from, well then don't rob. If you don't want to rip off a grandma on their insurance policy, well then don't do it to them. Don't maybe in a sales position. Oh, I got somebody, I could have given them this deal, but I gave them the deal that padded my commission an extra 3%. I didn't give them discounts and some of that, whatever, because you maximized the all-in profit instead of giving them a good and fair deal. Think about that. Do you want that to happen to you? No. Now here's the extension of that. There's also part of that responsibility, which is the next part I wanted to talk about, is knowing that you also have to be aware that you can't let other people do it either. And that's a really gray area, because how do you get on the soapbox and preach, or how do you infringe upon somebody else's freedoms by lecturing them or yelling at them or belittling them or attacking them or bullying them? It is a gray area, but at the end of there's another side of that coin too, which is when people are doing bad things, part of that responsibility of stopping that falls to everyone, which of course, boil that down to the individual, means you too. Okay? There's also a component of that responsibility, which I hopefully hit on really well when we talked about it, which is you have a responsibility to yourself to stop doing bad things. The greatest example that I always use is in politics. When you compromise yourself to get elected, so you believe A, but A isn't popular enough to get you elected, so you compromise and you give up part of your vision, part of your ethics, part of your discipline, so that you can make more people happy. And you do that a bunch of times, and then you keep making more and more political networking style debts effectively that get you elected. So then you get to that top of the mountain, But now you're so compromised, you've given up so much of yourself that the person that is there doesn't have the capacity anymore to be a good leader. I'm oversimplifying that, but specifically what I'm talking about is that, you know, that moral and ethical compass. You've now told yourself that, like, you know, a B- is an okay job, and maybe it is, maybe that's the best we can do, but I mean, would you want a B- general fighting your wars, or an A+? You'd want the A+. So how do we get a way to get that A+ in there, not a B-? Okay. A couple other things we talked through. You know, tolerance, starting with ourselves, developing ourselves. You know, I love the tolerance one, because it's such a good, you know, mirror reflection of, you can't change other people's behaviors easily, but you can work on yourself. So somebody says something and I get offended by it. Now keep in mind, I don't even know if their intent was to offend me. But either way, I can work on whether I'm easily offended. That is something within my realm of control. And companion to that, it makes intelligent sense to me that you would try to toughen yourself up and not be easily offended. It does not necessarily mean that they didn't do something wrong. Maybe they did. But you can control you. So on that tolerance component, you know, work on that. And then the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about too is the time. As we look at how to do better, how do we better use our time? You know, whether it's, there's so many, I can't even boil it down. You know, look at your day. Just go through your day, and then think about how many things were considered necessary, because in the current structure that we as people, as a society, have created, they are necessary. But then you go, yeah, but they're only necessary because we created this fake necessity. For instance, like, I don't know, paying an electric bill, okay? Yes, you have to do it because that's what we created, okay? You know, if you look any kind of classical, socialized, tribal communities of years past, you know, there's a lot of different ways to envision it, you know. So we create these little micro investments of time, and then that's our only resource. So then our time keeps getting eaten up. Well, we need to try and do the opposite. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on, and hopefully this all kind of gels together and makes sense as it comes together, is just understanding that as we look at our institutions, as we look at our, you know, whether, for me, I'm kind of edged on the corporate stuff right now, so I think a lot of our big corporate trends are not optimally protecting the individuals. We need to understand, or I challenge you to understand, that if the company isn't a thing, the institution isn't a thing. What it is something that's created by people, right? So it's not, I mean, it's not a person. I said thing, so correct that. It is a thing, but it's created by people. So it's the people. You know, if the people go away, it's just a book. It doesn't do anything. Okay? You know, let's say it's a book of laws. It's just a book. Okay? It's people putting conviction behind those laws and then putting enforcement structures that are then executed by people. It's people. Okay? So let's say there was a thing that we had to kill our firstborn child, right? To understand the complicity that needs to happen for that to actually happen. Somebody had to agree to write it. Then somebody had to actually choose to write it. Then somebody had to choose to enforce it. Like, all those people are part of the problem. Okay, so if you're at a company and you're doing bad things, okay, stop. If you see somebody at your company doing bad things, stop them. Because what ends up happening is you get to this almost race to the bottom style, where it's legitimately the easiest way to make money, to make value, is to just go steal it from your neighbor. Just take it. But why is that bad? Because then the bigger, stronger neighbor is going to take it from you. Okay? So if you just want the easy path, that's the easiest path. But we don't do that. I would suggest that is the right thing. All right, so hopefully that kind of makes all sense. the last video is just going to be talking about some of our systems, rethinking some of those, the targets. Maybe I'll put this teaser here because it is relevant from the individual. It's just more relevant from the macro vision. We need to redefine what our target goals are. Our target goals, in my humble opinion, should be prosperity of the individuals within the society. Okay, and I know there's some gray area in how you define prosperity, but it should not be money. Okay, money quantifies some things. Okay, it doesn't quantify all things, and by equalizing only for money, if you think about what businesses do. I don't want to pay my employees more because I have more money. Who's you have more money? Your employees are the company. You idiot. You know? Well, no, the shareholders. Okay, they're invested in the company, but they're just the people who work there are, you know, it's mind blowing. Are clearly a part of the company. Okay, and a bigger part in my opinion. All right, so there we go. So the next one is going to be just a top-down rethinking. Talk a little about choice of architecture, things like that. So thank you for those who have come along this far. And I don't know, I'm thinking about doing, just as a decompression, maybe some book reviews. There's a couple books that I like, pros and cons, so kind of like a passive book review if I keep throwing out content. All right, thank you guys so far, and stay tuned.